The Here Bro Damn Award, the worst winner, or the Pity Trophy, has recently been awarded to Joel Embiid after 3 straight seasons of finishing in the top 5. It took him leading the league in scoring for 2 straight years, being a great defender, finishing second in the competitive East, and a late season push to finally win it. And in this joyous moment, having years of training and hard work being validated by the NBA, for it only to be met by people saying it's a Here Bro Damn Award, calling him the worst winner, and calling him a Pity MVP. And whether you think he deserved it or not, that's one thing. The 2 other candidates made strong cases. There's Jokic, the reigning back-to-back MVP, having one of the greatest offensive seasons in NBA history, being only a few assists short of averaging a 25-point triple-double on the 5th highest true shooting ever. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the best player in the world on the best team in the world with the best odds of becoming world champions. They both made valid cases, so if you personally would have voted for them, then you would have chose wrong, but regardless. There's something I've noticed that lacks consistency in this Pity MVP conversation. Common factors attributed to this being a Pity MVP applies to another MVP, yet he wasn't given the same label. An MVP so recent, it's hard to understand how people forgot about him so quickly. One of the last 5 MVPs, Russell Westbrook III. The main reasons Embiid is being discredited are people believe there were better candidates, he has consistently been in the race and lost, and the narrative benefited him more than it did the others. But if you look at Westbrook and his MVP case, he fits these exact categories, and today I'm going to detail how. Let's look at the first aspect. There were better candidates. In any MVP race, there's some form of competition, barring 2016. And it's no different with these two. In their respective races, the competition always formed a competitive argument. In fact, this year was arguably the closest MVP race ever. This season, Jokic had one of the best offensive seasons we'd seen in the 76 years the league has been around, and was making a case to win 3 straight MVPs. In the scoring aspect, he was revolutionary. Statistically, he was the 25th highest scorer with 25 points. What is the quality by which he was doing it. 70% true shooting. This is the 5th highest all time. Then you break it down even further. From every range within the arc, he shot above 50%. As he stretched out beyond the arc, he shot above league average at 38%. This expansion in his game then allowed his other generational aspect to show, his passing. As a big man, the quality of his passing is ridiculous. At one point he was averaging a triple-double, and simply watching his passing, any, every and all angles he would find you. He'd throw the most ridiculous passes out of nowhere, and they were accurate. If he didn't slack off at the end of the season, he probably would have won it, if you add the fact that his team was first in the West as well. But if record was the determining factor, Giannis and the Bucks would have been clear of them. By 5 games specifically, with Giannis' second best player missing for almost 46 games straight, the Bucks were expected to take some form of drop, especially with the fact that the East was actually the harder conference this year. You had the Cavs, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Celtics who could all take them, yet without Middleton, they held on to the 2nd seed for a good amount of time, eventually jumping the 1-seeded Celtics and never looking back. Giannis during this stretch was almost unanimously the best player in the world, averaging 31, 12 and 6 on 60% true shooting on no skill. But for his lack of skill, he was one of the best defenders in the league, 2nd in rebounding, top 30 in assists as a forward, and 5th in scoring, all while shooting below 35% outside of 3 feet. He could have made a case being the best player in the world on the best team in the world alone. Then you look at Embiid. Comparatively, he may look worse. While he led the league in scoring, averaging 33 points as a center, Jokic scored at a more efficient rate. Factoring in him passing at an all-time level, the best case you could make for Embiid was him being better defensively. Yet defensively, Giannis gave more effort as a better rim protector and being a major reason his team was 4th ranked in defense. To add icing on the cake, the Nuggets had only 1 less win than the Sixers, and the Bucks were 1st in the league, while both arguably having a worse team this season. But Embiid managed to win for 2 major reasons. 1. Jokic likely would have won it, however towards the end of the season, as I said, he essentially gave up and his game dropped. This was arguably the closest MVP race ever, so for Jokic to slow down in the final stretch of the season and to not play the last 6 games really hurt him. And second ties in for both. The standard to win MVP again is inherently different. Consistently, MVPs just can't be the best player to win, otherwise LeBron would have like 12 MVPs, but they have to consistently improve upon why they already won, or at least have a narrative that fits them more than their competition. We've consistently seen this in history. Look at the narrative surrounding Jokic this season, winning 3 straight MVPs. It wasn't about his play, but his legacy, regarding the company he'd be in, winning 3 straight MVPs. Giannis has arguably got worse from his MVP season, despite being in his prime, and Jokic's aforementioned drop took him out of the running. But in 2017, the only competitors to have already won an MVP was LeBron. In 2017, the circumstances almost fit the MVP the exact same. Russell Westbrook had won, however both finalists made better cases than him. LeBron in 2017 was running the East. This would come off his 6th straight finals appearance and 8th straight year being the best player in the league. But the best part would be him coming off winning an impossible championship, going head to head with the 73-9 Warriors who had won 12 straight games on the way to the finals. Going down 3-1, yet managing to pull out a victory in one of the greatest upsets in NBA history. The same team Westbrook lost a 3-1 lead to. Now, he was clearly the best player in the league, but somehow he had got better, while averaging 27, 9 and 9 on 61% true shooting. He managed to improve his shooting splits, shooting 36% from 3 on 5 attempts, and increase his efficiency on a variety of shots from every angle. To top of the great season he was having, his team had the 2nd best record in the East, and had a higher record than the Westbrook-led Thunder. Even so, the East was considered relatively weak compared to the West, but in the West, there was an even better candidate than Russell Westbrook in James Harden. Not only did he have a higher record than Westbrook by 8 games, but I believe he was a better player than him. James Harden was an offensive machine. He averaged 29, 11 and 8, bordering a triple-double. Now he did pair 5.7 turnovers, but that's only 0.3 more than Westbrook. And what they lack in turnovers, Harden made up for in efficiency. Harden's 29 a game came at a higher true shooting percentage by 6%. But a factor to this discrepancy could be Westbrook attempting less free throws. But even when the ball was live, he shot a higher percentage on more attempts from every angle, adding on having more assists in the same amount of games and leading his team to a higher record being 3rd in the West, while Westbrook was 6th. How many MVPs have won as the 6th seed? The only other 6th seed to win an MVP was in 1982, 35 years ago. The fact that the goalpost for winning MVP had to be so dramatically shifted that it only happened one other time should already put it into question. The only aspect he beat him in was rebounding, but when you watch the games you can understand where the narrative of stat padding came from, though he was significantly better defensively than Harden. Then again, LeBron was better than him defensively. So if both candidates are making comparable cases, we'd have to acknowledge that a major part of MVP voting was narrative. And while narrative is a consistent factor in voting, and the reason for a lot of snubs, it specifically applies to Westbrook, as he had one of the greatest narrative pushes in history. After the Thunder blew a 3-1 lead to Golden State and KD was being disrespected for dropping as he did, Russell Westbrook, his best friend, was adamantly defending him to the media. We knew how close KD and Westbrook were. They were like brothers, as close friends as the Banana Boat crew. So on July 7th, 2016, when the news broke that Kevin Durant would sign with the best regular season team ever, it was only the 2nd most important piece of info. In joining the team, he completely abandoned Westbrook. For as close friends as they were, he didn't consult him, he didn't warn him, he didn't even say goodbye. He just left him, which is where the bad blood started. Not just between KD and Westbrook, but for KD and the entire basketball world. We felt bad for Westbrook. He didn't deserve that. We wanted better for him. We pitied him. Then for Westbrook to go on to do what he did, as historic as it was, the narrative was KD was holding him back, and this is the Westbrook revenge tour. A lot of people were talking in spite of KD rather than praising Westbrook, because, and I want to emphasize, what he did was history in the making, but there were better candidates who simply didn't fit the narrative. LeBron was LeBron. Him being the best player in the world was no different for anyone. And at most, James Harden was doing this after being the 6th man on the Thunder team. But again, Westbrook's narrative was simply stronger. But now you have to question if Embiid had a similar or worse case of narrative pushing. This would be the 2nd straight year of winning a scoring title. The last center to do this multiple times was Shaquille O'Neal, a top 10 player ever. Yet, for his historicness, he had never been rewarded. He has consistently been the 2nd best center in the league behind Nikola Jokic, and the center he is behind is the one who stole his MVP in 2021, as that year he averaged 29, 11 and 3 with 1.5 blocks and a steal. He was the best player on the 3rd best team in the league, and we can't leave out the fact that he was an all-defensive caliber player, being the main contributor to the 2nd best defense in the NBA. And while the Sixers were being the best team in the East, the Nuggets were being the 3rd best team in the West. Jokic was cool, but his offensive capabilities didn't outshine Joel that brightly, as they had similar scoring efficiency, with Joel defensively eclipsing him and having a better record. Joel being snubbed in previous years is why people are currently discrediting him, while Russell Westbrook was practically gifted the award. It's crazy to say that an MVP caliber player can't win an MVP, like when you're not consistently in the conversation, you're not bound to get one. You could argue that the narrative was it's time for him to finally win one, especially when you have players like Damian Lillard saying you can't continue to give it to the guy who's won twice in a row. And people believe comments like this are responsible for him finally winning it, more than the quality of his play. It's crazy that his MVP caliber reputation is currently being used to discount his achievement, as if he's the only MVP to finish second prior to winning it. But if you look back only 2 years for his cohort, Russell Westbrook was finishing top 5 in MVP voting as well. In 2015, while Curry was the MVP, Westbrook specifically lost out to none other than LeBron James and James Harden, who were leading their own teams to higher records than Westbrook. Following year, when Curry won unanimously, once again, LeBron James finished higher in the rankings, while leading his own team to a better record than the Thunder. I'm specifically bringing up leading his own team because the question of Westbrook on his own was prominent during this time. The validity of KD being the best player in the world was in serious question, and we go on to note that as a major reason for why he left OKC. This was only furthered by KD missing a 5-game stretch towards the start of the season and Westbrook averaging similar numbers to his MVP season. None of these factors were put into consideration when evaluating Westbrook's MVP, but it was for Joel. Joel being second for the past 2 years has created the idea that they only give it to him out of pity. So why are the standards different? Simple. Perception. It's easy to hate on Joel because over the duration of his career, he's cultivated a persona of joking, mocking, exaggeration, and overall being a troll. This can very easily rub people the wrong way, which it has. When he takes a last-second shot against your team or makes fun of your star player in an interview, it builds up, and this hatred leads people down a path of inconsistency in how they view and rank players. Russ in recent memory hasn't had a positive reputation. His stint on the Lakers literally almost killed his career, but we have to remember in 2017, Russ was arguably the most loved player in the NBA. More loved than LeBron, more loved than Mike, almost as loved as Kobe. Why do you think it was so easy for him to make a comeback? The second he started playing adequate for the Clippers, everybody was gassed. We all saw the picture, yet a player like James Harden, who despite playing exceptionally throughout the entire season, was consistently getting told he's just going to choke in the playoffs. Being in a race this close, where all the finalists have strong cases to win MVP, was bound to ruffle feathers, and people have taken this opportunity to create narratives without considering how their opinions apply across the board, or the impact their opinions can have. When people don't hold MVPs to the same standard, the value of what makes an MVP will never be consistent. Every time the criteria to win will be different, so this 65-game rule will mean nothing. The narrative will always be the deciding factor, and legacies will never be cemented. I didn't make this video to slander Westbrook, but to inform people of their inconsistencies. All I'm asking for is consistency. Never mind, this nigga went 5 for 18, fuck him, he's the worst MVP ever, here's LeBron video, okay bye.